Well, I just want to say welcome, really. My name is Jesper. I'm the founder and CEO of Impact Hub, which is now. And I just told Matthias here how nice it is to actually have some people in the space after, the emptiness that we felt here. We moved here just before the pandemic hit us. So we've been averaging 5 people here over the past year and a half, which has been super, super empty. We had this fantastic new space. But for those of you who doesn't know Impact Hub, we are the largest network of social entrepreneurs in the world. We have more than 100 places around the world and 16,000 members, people who try to find new solutions to the challenges that we have ahead of us, right? And we knew what it takes, right? It takes passion and drive and motivation from people like yourself. So we want to host more of these sort of events here as well now when the pandemic is sort of hopefully is behind us. I know anyway in Sweden it's looking good, but you never know, right? So take care of each other and enjoy your time here. And I'll be here afterwards as well if you want to have some more questions to me. So Matthias, take it. The scene is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, first of all, thanks Impact Hub for having me for a second time. I gave a masterclass at Impact Hub Amsterdam. This is the one in Stockholm. It's a pleasure. So I hope I don't disappoint you. And thank you all for coming. I appreciate you making time in this rainy, foggy day here in Stockholm to join this session. This is actually going to be a masterclass. So I'm going to make you do some work as well. So we're gonna make it very intimate in this very intimate setting. The idea is to also get to know each other, talk a little bit more about what your challenges are as impact-driven people, and hopefully that you all leave this session knowing how to get featured in the media in a cost-effective way without having to hire an agency like mine. and yeah, we'll have some fun along the way. So I will introduce myself, and then I would like you all to introduce yourself, considering that we are a few people, so I really like this setting. So a little bit about myself. I'm Matthias. I'm the founder of PR Lab. PR Lab is a PR agency. We're specialized in the tech sector. We work with a lot of startups and scale-ups, but also with some corporations. And we have an office in Amsterdam and an office here in Stockholm. So we're present in both markets. And I'm also the writer of the PR Paradox, right on the right. That is a book about how to master the art of PR as a startup or a scale-up. I will tell you more about it later. But yeah, you can buy it on Amazon and other stores. It's a picture of the team, because it's not just me and some of our clients here. Maybe you recognize some of them or not. We work with a lot of fintech companies, health tech, biotech. We work with some charities as well. Venture capital firms. So yeah, we cover it all within this sector. Okay, enough about me now. And before I kickstart the presentation, I would like to hear maybe from you what triggered you to come here today. So maybe you can tell me about yourself, like your name and where you work, and why you decide to come here today and not go for lunch with someone. Who would like to start?
Okay, I can.
Yeah?
My name is Frederick. I make the kombucha you're holding in your hand.
Which is very good, by the way. I really like it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And we don't have any money basically for marketing, so this is something I want to check out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Welcome. Nice.
Yeah, well, I can go. My name's Hadi, and I work for this. It's not a company, it's more like an NGO called My Dream Now, and we try to inspire and motivate young adults out in the Stockholm suburbs, which you probably hear about a lot in the news, and yeah. So I'm the marketing and communication manager, and I'm always interested in learning new things about PR. I've worked with PR since 2010, but it was the first years I just worked in the fashion industry. So this is a completely new industry for me, and I'm just trying to learn as much as possible.
Cool. Nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Maybe you?
Yeah, my name is Amanda, and I work at a company named Keyflow. And I started 2 months ago, and now I'm responsible for the marketing, but I never worked with that before, so I need some input.
Cool. And what does the company do?
We have an application for venues and also users and guests. So you can buy tickets and write your name on the guest list and buy VIP cards or book tables and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else?
Okay.
Yeah?
Dominic, run a company called Audio Harvest. Essentially, we create and distribute podcasts, and we just do it in real time. So we find content people have already created, and then automatically transform that into podcasts and distribute it. And the reason for here, I used to do PR previously, but it seems to be a lot harder these days.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more paid to play. So I'm interested to see how you can kind of work around that a bit.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Nice. So you have some experience in this.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. So what do we understand when we say PR? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about PR, besides Sex and the City?
Communication.
Communication. Yes.
Awareness.
Awareness. Mm-hmm.
Manipulating.
What?
Manipulating.
Manipulating. Oh.
I had to say something bad.
Yeah. True.
Media relationships.
Media relations. Yes.
Interesting topics.
Interesting topics. Yeah. Cool.
Storytelling.
Yes. Nice. What else?
Money.
Money. Yes. True. What else?
Like an offline approach to
Offline. So you mean like printed,
physical,
like a magazine or like a
an
newspaper?
experience.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anything else?
The whispering game.
The whispering game. Nice. Okay. Fair enough. Cool. Anything else? No? Okay. Good. We're all in the same place. So, well, this is a traditional, let's say, marketing and sales funnel that we always talk about when we do marketing or when we do PR and communications. And traditionally speaking, PR sits at the very top of the funnel. So it's more about attracting traffic, like generating interest about who you are as a business and what you do, right? Engaging with a new audience and communicating that to the external world. Because internal communications is more, it could also be, sometimes PR departments also do internal comms, but that's normally assigned to human resources. So external communications is what we normally refer to within the PR world. As you can see, PR has an impact not only at the very top of the funnel, but also throughout the funnel until we convert leads into clients. And why is that? Well, that's because PR has a big influence in your funnel when it comes to building credibility, okay? So that is one of the biggest benefits of doing PR as a business, and especially as a new business, okay? Because you are gonna be competing with people that have been in the market for many years. So how do you build that trust? Well, that's one of the biggest benefits of PR. Also because nowadays, chances are people, before they get in touch with you, before they fill out your form to get in touch with your sales team or your whatever team it is that talks to potential clients or users or whatever it is, partners, these people are gonna Google you, chances are. And if they only see you talking about yourself, well, let me tell you, maybe that's not gonna be very effective, okay? So PR deals with what's called earned media, okay? So we have paid media, shared media, owned media, and earned media. And PR takes care of the earned media placement, so you have to earn it, as we say. It's basically trying to get third-party endorsements. So these are the key components of a marketing plan, and PR basically touches upon many of these items here, as you can see. So it's not just like media relations and partnerships only, but it's also event management, relationship marketing, social media in some cases as well. Anything that goes out to the external world that talks about who you are as a brand has to do with PR, because ultimately we are taking care of your reputation, your image, okay? Now, That image translates into different ways. It takes different forms, different shapes in different organizations. Yes? So, to summarize what PR is about, so we can get started with the juicy content, PR is basically, I really like this definition. I use it all the time because it's very straightforward, very straight to the point. Advertising or marketing is saying that you're amazing. PR is getting someone else to say that on your behalf. Someone that has credibility. Most of the times, that's journalists or influencers or micro-influencers or macro-influencers or someone that has like a proper image. Okay? If you have questions, you can always ask me. And for the people behind the screen, you can text it or something. I don't know, we'll figure it away. So, PR, traditionally speaking, and what most PR agencies do is brand awareness. Okay, so you mentioned awareness, I think, or you mentioned awareness. Well done. So yeah, it's basically creating buzz around your brand, who you are, what you do. But at the same time, PR is also helps a lot. It's like a very helpful tool to help you stand out from your competition, to be seen as a leader in the field by sharing your thoughts, sharing your opinions with the external world, and getting people to post it, to publish it, to basically become a voice in a certain field by speaking at events, also as well at conferences, conducting research and signing your thoughts and your opinions. All those type of things belong to the thought leadership category of PR. And content creation is there as well because it's what basically fuels a lot of the tactics and things that we do within the PR world, whether that's by writing a byline article, an opinion piece, creating a research report. There's a lot of content writing. So a lot of people that do PR actually are writers, whether that be journalists that were journalists in the past, or people that have like a content writing background. That's what you come across quite a lot in the PR world, because we are working mainly with journalists. So we need to write well. Okay? So what is not PR? And this is a slide that I have here because it's very important, because a lot of people confuse PR with marketing. They are like, yeah, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's not. Why? Because it's really hard for us within the PR world to attribute leads or clients generated to PR, mainly because of that slide that I show you that we sit at the very top of the funnel, which means that we create attention for you. But it's really hard for us to tell you, hey, this article got you this many clients, because there are multiple factors that come into play along the way. Let's say your UX. The copy in your website is shit. Then, well, maybe you get a visitor, but they're not going to become a client because they don't understand what you do. And we, as PR people, we do not have much influence over that, for example. Or let's say that, I don't know, you get featured in an article talking about a new product that you're going to launch, but then you go to your website and there is nothing about that product. There are multiple things that come into play. So PR should not be measured based on lead gen, right? We use different metrics. But marketing uses lead gen. So that's the main difference. Do you see the difference between marketing and PR? It's not the same thing, okay? And it's also not a short-term thing. So for the ones that have done SEO, you see that SEO is organic and it takes time. Well, PR also takes time, and let me tell you, my friends, it is not cheap. It's not cheap because you spend many hours trying to land coverage, and like to build an influence in a certain field. Okay? So, having said that, what are the benefits of PR? What is the power of PR? What should you be doing in actually PR? For the ones that came here to test the water, see if it's something for you or not. Well, these are some of the benefits. If you ask me, after doing PR for 10 years, I think the biggest one is basically building credibility and strategic positioning. Okay? So you're starting in the field, you have competitors, people that have been doing this for a while, you want to shine, you want to be seen as something different, you want to position yourself in a different way, you want to expand into a new market that no one knows you. PR is really helpful for that, okay? To raise awareness and for strategic positioning. At the same time, as the name says it, public relations, PR is a great tool to also build relationships with people that maybe you are not able to from a commercial sphere. Let's say potential leads of yours that are not willing to become clients right now, but from a content perspective, you can still engage with them, okay? Because you're talking more about the industry as a whole, what is trending, what's changing. And that's a way to also engage or interact with people that eventually, when they are ready, they can become clients of yours. But you can still build partnerships with them by getting them featured in an article with you, by getting them speaking slot in certain event, by organizing yourself an event and getting them featured there to speak. That's another powerful part of PR as well, to build long-lasting relationships with potential partners of your brand. Okay? So, I'm gonna get right into the content unless one of you has questions, because I wanna get to the part where I actually tell you how to get featured in the media in a cost-effective manner without having a big budget or without having even news happening. Because it's easy to get featured in the media when you have something to announce, let me tell you. But the hard part is, what about when you have nothing to announce? How do you still get that traction? How do you still get featured in the media? And that's what my presentation is going to be revolving around. Okay? So, PR is not really about being relevant. Like I said, you have something to announce, but staying relevant. That's the big challenge. Okay? But in order to achieve that, we need to keep in mind, especially when we do PR, is that we are not the center of the universe. We are a big component of the story, but we are not the story. And this happens a lot with especially like very purpose-driven entrepreneurs that are like, yeah, but people should care about what I do. My product is amazing. I have this amazing kombucha thing here that I love. But I get that. But journalists normally cover industries, cover spaces as a whole. They cover, for example, the tech field or the AI field, or the funding field, So if you only talk about yourself, you are gonna engage with only a very small, reduced audience, basically, because outlets are gonna see it as overly promotional of who you are and what you do. Okay, so it's very important to keep this in mind, the mindset when it comes to doing PR. Okay, that we are not the center of the story, but we are a key component of it. I'm gonna skip that one for now. I'm gonna guide you through this case study of a company that I think you can all relate to, because it was a small business. Nobody really knew them. I worked with them when we were like a team of like 5-6 people, and we wanted to make a lot of noise. We wanted to get a lot of traction. It's a HR technology tool that people can use to give feedback to each other and replaces the dreaded annual performance reviews. And after following these tactics that I'm going to share with you, we managed to get a lot of coverage in different outlets that were relevant for the brand. Okay, like not only TechCrunch, that if you do tech, chances are you want to get featured there, but also, the Wall Street Journal, the Times in the UK, Fast Company, Forbes, whatever. Like we managed to get a lot of traction in the media by just following the tactics that I'm going to share with you now. Okay. So when we do PR, and when we talk to journalists, we always need to keep in mind the 10 elements of newsworthiness. It's like, what are the things that journalists pay attention to when they receive a pitch? What is a pitch? I'm asking you now. What is a pitch? What is a press pitch? Has anybody ever written a press pitch before? Maybe you? Yeah. So if you will have to tell the rest what a PR pitch is, how would you define it?
Well, I mean, mine was different because I wasn't working in PR, but I would write, but the thing I take when we talk about is I would write about subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I work in media a lot, so we might talk about interactive TV over the top, and we might be involved in that, so we talk about the overall thing and make it bigger than ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd weave ours into that, and that would be the pitch to them, is that there's a trend going on, you need to cover this because it's your day job, basically. So I'm basically doing your job for you. My main pitch was my main pitch is you want to cover this, I'll write something good and I'll weave us into it. And that worked okay for a while.
Fair enough. That's a very straightforward description. It's basically a PR pitch. When we pitch journalists, we are basically selling a story to a journalist. We're trying to get them to write about us. Okay? And what are the things that journalists pay attention to when they receive a PR pitch? Which, by the way, we'll all write one now in a sec. They pay attention to these elements. Okay, so for example, if I'm a journalist that covers Sweden and I get a story from a company that operates in India and is launching a product in India, chances are I'm not going to cover it because it's lacking the element of proximity. Okay? this, having said this, it's not important that all the elements are present in the story that you pitch, but at least a few of them should. For example, if I'm pitching a story about something that happened a year ago, it's not timely anymore, okay? And that's why we have all these elements here. Again, not all of them needs to be present in your story, but a few of them will guide you through critically thinking about, is my story going to be relevant for a journalist or not? The reason why I'm saying this is because we get a lot of requests from our clients saying like, hey guys, can you pitch the story of our new feature in our app that you basically slide this and some, no one cares. You know what I mean? No one cares. So sometimes we have stories that no one cares about. And it's fine. It's fine. We just need to pick the battles. We need to pick the ones that actually could work. And if we have a story that maybe journalists won't care, how can we spin it so they do care? What can we link it to? You know? Anyway. And very important as well is to remember before we pitch any story to address these questions. To make it very clear and concrete for journalists, okay, what's in the story for them? Okay? And what is the story about? Sometimes we, especially when we operate in niches that are very particular or like very technical, we tend to use a lot of like complex words, and we assume that the journalist is going to understand what we're trying to say. So we use acronyms or whatever, and that is detrimental to your story. It's not going to help you. It's actually going to be the opposite. We need to assume that the person doesn't understand anything about the world that we're in, and we need to make it easy for everybody to understand. So, if you can tell the story to a friend of yours in a bar, or your grandma, or parents, or whatever, daughter, son, whatever, and they understand it, that's a good sign. Okay? So, the 6 ways of getting featured in the media in a cost-effective manner are this, and I'm going to go by each one of them in the next slides. Okay? Halfway through the slides, we're gonna do a quick exercise, so you all can draft your own pitch. You can pitch it to us, and then I'm gonna run you through the other ways, and that's gonna be it. Okay? So the first one and the most effective way, in my opinion, to get featured in the media is to conduct research, because you are actually coming up with data that journalists really appreciate. Journalists normally are looking for news, right? Like something that they can cover. And if you can come up with data, doesn't need to be internal, it could also be external, but if you can come up with data that is relevant to a writer because they cover a certain field, a certain space, and they and it kind of like resonates with it, then chances are they are at least going to take a look at it. Of course, it depends on how self-promotional the data is. You know, but you, for example, that you work in certain suburbs, you know, if you can somehow map out what are the main struggles and maybe compare them across suburbs, that's something that journalists could really care about, because you're giving them fresh insights into something that is timely, that has an element of proximity, you know, etc. So research tends to work quite well. Do you have a question? Yes?
Yeah, just one step back.
Mm-hmm.
For the pitch, is it the actual, are you providing the entire content to
Mm-hmm.
the journalist, or are you just sending them like the idea with some supporting bullet points?
Mm-hmm. Depends on the pitch. I have a slide about how to structurize a pitch coming up next, so you will see how we do it, but it really depends on what is that you're pitching. Because, for example, if you're pitching a research report, then yes, normally you should include the report in it. But if you're pitching a commentary idea, so basically you're trying to get someone in your company interviewed about a topic, you don't need to add an article about it. You know, it's just like you pitch them the idea of it, 2 paragraphs, and go. But I'm gonna explain how to draft a pitch in a bit. Okay? Cool. So these are a few examples of reports that at PR Lab we have made for some of our clients. You know, like for example, the one in the middle is for a company called Recruity that is like a recruitment platform. And when the pandemic started, we analyzed how the hiring freezes were affecting recruiters, because it was the target audience of Recruity. And then we mapped out their results, we put them on a research format, and then we send it out to journalists. Same thing happened with Sudoku, the company on the right, that is like a like a edtech solution that targets university students. We analyze how, like the struggles or problems that they were facing during the lockdown, and we were also sharing those inputs with journalists constantly. So we're getting media coverage for them on a constant basis. And again, you don't need actually internal news happening for this. They didn't have anything to announce. They just jump on what was trending and provide inputs to elaborate on the bigger story. Okay? And the last one here is like Paso, it's like a delivery company, like a multi-carrier delivery software type of thing. We mapped out how many online kind of like e-commerce stores were actually environmentally friendly and what kind of features they were offering. So then we ranked them, we made a ranking, and then we sent it out to journalists, and they really liked it. This is one way of getting featured in the media. Maybe it doesn't work for you. Good thing is there are 5 other ways. So let's get going. Another one is newsjacking. Newsjacking is basically a way of getting featured in media by jumping on something that is trending and deviating that attention towards yourself. So for example, let's say that there is a new regulation that would make, I don't know, kombuchas illegal. And then I have a kombucha product, then I can jump on that and newsjack it. So as you can see here in the graph, newsjacking happens after the news break. Okay, so the news break, and then I jump on it, newsjack, and share my view, my thoughts in what is trending. I had an example here on the right from 2 fintech companies, as like digital banks. The one announced that they were going to leave the UK because of Brexit, and the other one was like, hey guys, this is actually not a legit reason we are going to stay in the UK because what they're saying is not true, and then they got attention towards themselves. But it's just basically newsjacking the story of their competitor. Examples. And then lastly, we have, any questions about newsjacking? No? Cool. And then lastly, we have company features. And these ones are the ones that we all want to have because it's basically getting an article about yourself, right? You want a newspaper, a magazine, an online publication to interview you, write an article about yourself, and say, okay, this company is amazing. So this is an example, for example, of a company feature that we landed at Forbes. And we land this all the time, but they are the hardest one to land, of course, because how you pitch the journalist this type of story needs to be neutral. It's the opposite to how it looks. They can write about you, but when you talk to them, you need to make it sound like it's adding value to the audience. Okay? So it's a tough one. It's not an easy one to get, but the results, I mean, the rewards are great because you get a full article at Forbes, for example, about yourself. And then you can run ads around it, you can get to a new audience, social media. There are multiple things that you can do with coverage. So, we talk about a pitch. I have a pitch structure here. I would like you all to write a pitch. So, how do we actually structure a pitch? How do we actually talk to the media about who we are? Well, this is a structure that I have developed myself. I mean, doesn't mean that every pitch is like this. I have seen multiple types of pitches. It really depends on your style. But I think this structure could work pretty well with most stories. That's why I picked this one for this session. Okay? So, let's not forget what a pitch is. We're selling a story to a journalist so they can write about it. Where that story is research, or I'm newsjacking, or I'm launching a product, or I'm opening an office, doesn't matter. What matters is that you make it relevant to the journalist. How do we do that? Well, first we start with a catchy headline. Why is that important? Well, because they get swamped with pitches every single day. They get a lot of pitches from a lot of PR people that send them stories on a daily basis. So on an average, they get like 300 emails or so per day. So the competition is fierce. So how do we make them interested in our story? First of all, we need to make sure that they open the email. Okay? So we need a catchy headline for that. Something that would resonate with them, that would spark attention, but at the same time, it doesn't give away the whole story, so they open it. Okay? And then we start with a scenario, we delve into a problem, and then we offer a solution and resources. The scenario refers to the space that I'm in. So I put them in the space. You know, for example, I don't know, let's say, just an example that we used for Impraise was that we're talking that the scenario would be that a lot of companies were still using annual performance reviews as a way to measure performance in the workplace. That was the scenario, so I put them in the HR space, okay? The problem was that most millennials found it very demotivating in the workplace. They were very disengaged. They felt like they were losing a lot of motivation because they were still relying on ways of measuring performance that is outdated. They felt that they felt a lot of anxiety from it. Okay, that was the problem. And the solution was this. There's the Impress. It's a platform that was developed to allow people to give real-time feedback at work, and it replaces the annual performance reviews. You know, and the resources, lastly, is what do you offer them to build the story? Because let's not forget that we are not making their jobs. Okay, they are the writers. They are the ones in charge of writing the story. We're just providing them resources for it. So it's like, okay, we're gonna, for this story, I'm happy to get you in touch with the founder of this company, or with sharing a report with you, or whatever it is that the journalist can use to build the story. Clear? Some tips here about writing a pitch from journalists that I spoke to in the past, and I put them all here together. The pitches need to be very personalized. Another difference between PR and marketing is that with PR we don't massively distribute stuff. We normally go one by one because we need to show the journalists that we care, that we want them to feature it. Okay? And that's one thing. So we personalize the pitch very well based on the journalist. Like, I'm sending this story to you, I'm sharing this with you because you work here, you do this, you have covered this other company in the past, you covered this sector, etc. And lastly, what else I want to share with you guys? Oh yeah, the length of a pitch. There's no, this is not strict, but normally when we pitch a story, especially when we're trying to get someone interviewed, we pitch in 2 to 3 paragraphs max. It's like an email, basically. Clear? Questions? Something to add?
What's the job you have to do to know which journalists you target?
Well, first you need to think about who will care about my story. Okay? Let's say that you work here in Impact Hub, right? Yeah. Let's say Impact Hub is opening a new Impact Hub in, I don't know, Denmark, whatever. So you need to figure out who is the person that covers this sector. You know, like the impact-driven companies, like co-working, like who normally covers these type of stories, and then you basically customize it towards that person. So every journalist covers different audiences and different countries or different niches, so you need to find yours, basically, and then you customize it. But it doesn't need to be only one. You know, you can select a few, and then depending whether you're pitching exclusively or not, that's something that is coming next, but I would say now, when you pitch exclusively, you're basically giving a publication the rights to your story. Basically saying, for example, I'm sharing this story exclusively with you, means no one else gets the story before this day. Okay? But if you're not pitching exclusively, you can pitch multiple journalists at the same time. It's up to you. When you pitch exclusively, you raise chances of getting covered. That's it, because a publication gets the benefit of being the only ones breaking the news. You know, and this is actually really helpful, especially when you are launching news. Okay? You have a question?
Yeah, I was just is this a written pitch, like an email?
Yeah. Yeah. So now it's time to you write your own pitch. I would really like that. I know it could be a little bit difficult, but no pressure. This is a safe space. Maybe just let's take 10 minutes. We can all write a pitch. If you don't have a business, because I don't know, let's say you're studying or whatever, you can write a pitch about maybe a business idea that you have, or if you volunteer somewhere, you can do it about that. But if you have your own business or if you work in a place, let's try to make it about that. So you can take it home with you and send it to the media, and maybe tomorrow, who knows, you get some coverage. Shall we do that? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? You can do it on your phone, on a piece of paper, whatever you want. And I'm gonna leave this slide here so you can take a look at the structure.
All right, everyone.
Cool, so who's ready? Doesn't need to be perfect, it could also be not finalized, but almost there.
I can give it a go.
Yeah, perfect, yes.
So
Do you want to stand here?
I'd love to stand there.
Get on the spotlights.
Yeah, so
Oh yeah, we have a mic situation.
so So mine picked a topic rather than about the company specifically. So we work in audio, so talking around AI and neural voices. So you have this technology that can create voices, essentially, and how that's an emerging trend. So how's an emerging trend? It's in terms of the applications. So you can use it as bots, you can use it audio distribution, or as an immersive experience, essentially. So the pitch to them is essentially to say, people don't really understand this technology, both from a business point of view. People are sort of aware of it, but who does this and how does it work? Well, you have the main providers. So you have Amazon provides Poly, you have Microsoft, and you have Google, their solutions. So the piece would be about a little bit of education first, saying this technology is nothing to be afraid of. It's really interesting, and it's been done by some amazing, well-established companies. Then the second thing you talk about is well, that's great, but what's the applications and what do they mean to me? So you talk about how this is being used a lot as bots. So if you have kind of customer feedback, you'd be using these kinds of voices within that. If you were looking to actually distribute content at speed, which is the way we weave in what we do, is use this technology to actually create audio on the fly, essentially. So you start to talk about some of those applications and how it works. And then just to kind of broaden the relevance of it, you'd actually talk about, well, what does this mean to the general public? Because the general public will be excited and nervous around this. So the excitement will be, well, this is interesting, and this is another way that technology in the real world is starting to merge and blur. And so you talk about the positive of that, but you also talk about the negative is that people are quite nervous. They want to know if they're speaking to a real person or a technology, and when and how is that regulated within that. And then I kind of end with the solution being, like, for the general market, it's really about education and awareness, and we're part of this movement, and we think it's interesting, it's a great trend, and where we work is in audio distribution, so I'd weave it in. That would be the story in the pitch.
Cool, thank you.
Cool.
Cool, so has anyone has any feedback on the pitch? Or something that maybe resonated with you, like, yeah?
Yeah, I really like the content, but if I was a journalist and I wasn't aware of your,
Competition, yeah.
Exactly. Then I would be like, okay, what are your unique selling points? Like, what are you doing different that is going to make me want to write about you and not about someone else?
But this piece wouldn't be, we would be like 5% of this piece. This piece is about AI and neural voices. So I'm going to the journalists and saying, look, there's this really interesting thing going on. It's emerging, huge companies are using it. Millions of people without even being aware, actually listening to, let's talk about this. This is interesting. It might be a technology publication and go. So the journalist goes, well, that's really, really interesting. And then I would just weave in, not much actually. I would just talk, when we come to the applications, I'd say one of the applications is it's great for distributing audio content. And I might, in passing, reference ourselves within that. And then you might have at the bottom to find out more. But that really, with this piece, that would really be it. We wouldn't talk a huge amount. We just want to be part of that movement and educate people and be championing it.
So what I'm hearing is that the most clever part and strategic part of this is that you're more or less writing or using the fact that everyone wants to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Like labeling yourself within that without being a self.
Yeah, just weaving it in subtly. And this is more kind of, because it's an emerging thing, it's harder for us to get involved. So over time, I might kind of be a bit more explicit with later articles. But just to begin with, build relationship with journalists, give a lot of value to them. And also, to be honest with what we're doing, there's a bit of an education piece even before you get to us. Is if we just jump in and say what we do, people go, well, I don't really understand what that means in the context of everything. So it's good for us to kind of educate a bit as well.
And that was actually my second thing, that what you're doing is also telling people and as journalists, like, look, this is how we use AI, because most people might think about robots or whatever. So you're doing a lot of things in like a few lines.
Yeah, hopefully. I got to write it, but yeah, that's the idea essentially. Yeah.
Cool. I think it's really nice that you're offering yourself as a resource of the story, and talking about the bigger story as a whole, and you as a key component of it, but like not the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Nice.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Do you want this back? I guess.
Do we want the microphone back? Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we can pass it on to the next person.
You don't need to listen to me all.
Anybody else that wants to come to the stage and share your pitch? I mean, it's not mandatory. Also, you can read it from your chair. You need to come to the stage.
Who wants to actually get better at PR?
That's a question. Yeah. Anybody? No? Don't be shy.
I don't have a solution. That's the problem.
Don't worry. I mean, that's fine. Come on.
We got your back.
Yeah.
You can also just like read it instead of describing it. Up to you, huh?
Yeah, I haven't written it really.
Okay.
So, and I don't have a catchy headline, but there is this. The scenario is with a shortage of houses for people to live in right now. They're trying to build new houses everywhere, all over the place. And what they're doing is they're tearing down older buildings, like industrial buildings. And that means spaces for, starting companies disappear and workplaces disappear in the suburbs. And we are experiencing this because we, as a small company who needs to grow, we're going to get thrown out of our current space when they tear down the building, and we can't get a new space to move into. And there's actually we've contacted one of the landlords in our area where there is a space we could move into, but they're like, it's been empty for years and they're not interested in even renting it out. So there's this conflict between housing, which is needed, and also spaces for small businesses, which might be interesting from a journalist's point of view to write about, because it's two legitimate interests that are colliding somehow. And we are an example of a company that's has a problem from that. But as I said, I have a scenario and a problem, and like us as an example, but I don't have a solution really. So right now this is basically just for a journalist. I would think it might be interesting to write about, but I don't know really how to tweak it so that we're part of a solution. Mm-hmm. So I'd love some feedback on that. Kathy?
What if you take it from a climate perspective? Like, everybody hates waste and throwing money at things that are completely unnecessary. So you could be like, actually it's unnecessary to tear down these buildings and rebuild something completely new with more resources when it's perfectly fine as it is now. It's creating more jobs, it's blah, 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 blah. And it's going to be better for the environment if we just leave this here.
Yeah, or at least use the spaces that are actually there, and not letting them sit empty. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I just think the ironic part here is there's so many levels of irony here, but it's also like this whole speech you just had. It's also like a like a job pitch, like, hi, can you help me get this? I mean, it could.
Yeah, it's a cry for help.
Yeah, it's a cry for help, because what you're saying is, hi, we have money. Let's say you do. We have money. We have people. We need a room.
Yeah.
Can we just get this ball spinning? Because I know there's a lot of empty spaces, and we would love to take them.
Yeah.
So why are there like a wall between us and this room? But also like how, I don't know, what do you guys do?
We make the kombucha.
Oh, you make
The lovely kombuchas are there for you guys to take.
Yeah.
For a limited
You know.
time only. We don't have a factory.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I
Or-
mean, depending on who you were, who you could email, let's say you would actually email a realtor or maybe every co-working space and do a cry for help because this isn't just an issue for you guys, but it's also an issue about what kind of city do we want.
Yeah, I
We
know.
only want very rich people and very rich companies to be able to live here and work here.
Yeah, or separate houses from workplaces,
Exactly.
and like everyone has to commute for a
So it's actually a
long
society
distance.
issue. Like,
Yeah, it is.
and you could take that to ETC or any like company that cares about
Yeah,
innovation.
yeah.
Because what happens if we can't keep doing this wonderful kombucha thing? Like what? Yeah, I could talk.
Yeah. Thanks for the.
No, I think she has a point. Like sometimes maybe you're trying to make it very much focus on you guys, but like by clinging on the bigger problem and also offering resources like what she said, you know, other companies are kind of like struggling with the same problem. You make it more about the problem and you being a key part of the story because you are firsthand experiencing it, you know, than by just being the only person talking about this problem at scale. Similar to what he did with his pitch, you know. He talked more about the space, the problems, you know. And indeed, it doesn't need to be a solution in this case because you are a victim of it, you know, but you're offering commentary. So in this case, the structure that we're using right now doesn't necessarily, it's more linked to, for example, if you have a tech startup or products that is solving a problem. In your case, you have a product, but your story is not about your product, right? It's about you guys experiencing this bigger issue. So in this case, you can offer commentary. So you don't need to have a solution.
Okay.
You just like can skip that part and jump into resource.
Thanks.
Cool. Yes, thank you. Well, unless there's someone else that wants to come to the stage, I'm gonna keep.
I want to.
Yeah. Okay. Come on. Yeah.
I would love to be last. So
Oh, you also want to? Okay. Perfect. Cool.
Okay. What do you all think about sustainability being sustainable and profitable at the same time? A lot of companies, they don't know that they can be profitable or by being sustainable. And a lot of startups, they don't even know how they are impacting in a positive way sustainability. All the 2030 agenda, we hear about them everywhere. So my company, I don't have any company, but my company, we're creating an app for all these startups, so you can put in all your skills, everything your company is doing, and it will generate the goals that you're impacting. And this will also bring awareness to your customers, because when your customers, they know what you're doing for the society, it will bring maybe the loyalty that you need. And yeah, that's kind of it. I don't know.
Well done. I like it.
Yeah. I've never done PR.
No, but I think you follow the structure pretty well. You know, what would be the resource in this case for the story?
The resources, all the academic articles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be you.
Yeah.
Because the resource is what you're giving the journalist to write to cover the story. You know, it could be an interview with you, for example.
Yeah, with all these environmentalist groups, social groups, what is happening, Greta Thunberg, for example. Everyone, yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. And we have, you want to say something?
yeah. The thing you're presenting is also kind of an opportunity to be the opposite to greenwashing. Like, as you said, a lot of startups and a lot of companies, they don't even know that they're doing something good because they don't measure that.
Yeah.
And there we have this huge problem or challenge. We live in a time where we have to measure everything with the tools that we do have. And what happens with all the great things we do that we don't measure? Like, just because you can measure something doesn't mean that that's the only relevant parts. So you're offering them a way to measure something that they didn't even know that they wanted to measure. So I mean, you could pitch this to anyone who maybe writes about companies that are doing greenwashing or pretending to be sustainable or something, and have like, do you know how sustainable you guys are or whatever?
Yeah. Cool. Normally when we have the pitches written, you can quote data about why you exist.
Okay.
80% of startups don't measure what social impact they're having or whatever.
Okay.
You know, that's a proof for you of being of existing. You know. Cool. Thank you so much. And you want to also share your pitch?
Anyone else?
Yeah, maybe I should give it a try.
Go for it.
Okay.
We got your back.
Cool.
I didn't have time to finish it, but yeah.
We got your back. And I'm only talking because everyone else is quiet.
Feeling the silence.
Okay, so not sure if I have a catchy headline, but maybe it would be something like solving Sweden's issue with gang violence, gang crime, or something that would cause the journalist that's reading this to just be like, what's this? Since everyone knows this is a big issue in our society, and so the scenario is that, I mean, the society is growing apart, and segregation is bigger than ever, and we have a huge problem with kids that are dying. And so the company that I'm working for, My Dream Now, is a part of the solution. Because we've been working with it since 2011, so we know by now that it's a lot about creating positive role models for these kids. And also just being there, seeing them, talking to them about their dreams, because a lot of them have parents that have maybe 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table. Because the, what's it called? Arbetslöshet. Unemployment rate is skyrocketing in those areas, unfortunately. So we're part of the solution. The resources, we make a report every year. We go back and follow up with the kids. We do enquêter.
Service.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of data, and we know that we're making a difference. So yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. And maybe we could, I mean, just an idea for your pitch is to also share a more concrete example of what you guys mean with a role model, and how that is impacting, for example, a certain space. Because sometimes journalists are more prone to cover stories that have, let's say, well, I mean, you offer data in the resources, but it could also be a good idea to bring it up a little bit more closer to the problem or the scenario, so it makes it resonate straight away with the journalist instead of leaving it up to the end.
Yeah.
You know, as in like, it's studied that this is a big thing and it's becoming even more, so you have the element of timeliness as well in the story.
Yeah.
You know, that is increasing.
Yeah.
And yeah. And if you could also, something that helps a lot with this type of PR pitches is when you link them to seasonal stories as well. For example, Christmas or winter, or you know, moments in the year that this becomes a big thing. You know?
Maybe like, because this recent year there's been like 50 young kids are not celebrating Christmas with their families because this and that happened, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
That will make it very timely.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well done.
Thank you.
Cool. And now you want to be the last one, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a lot of help.
Okay.
Take the mic.
Yeah. Oh, the microphone. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, grab it. Okay, I really need help, so
We're gonna first get you hooked up with the
Yippee.
mic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good to go?
You can stand here.
Yippee! Wonderful bright light. Okay, so catchy headline. It could be something like we have so many ways to communicate today. I mean, all the social media, your email, your phone, whatever. But are we actually reaching each other? Are we actually having a dialogue, or are we just, filling this void with emails? But it could also be like, why is SMS better than email? Or stop spamming your customers, or I don't know. So I wasn't quite sure if I understood the scenario part, but the scenario here would be like, say I'm gonna email Resumé. Does anyone not know what it is? It's they write a lot about marketing and commercial and kind of target people in that kind of space. So say that I want them to understand that they should use us whenever they have a client that needs to communicate somehow with their clients. And the point is that 46 Elks, this lovely T-shirt, we use, we have an API, and we use that to how do you say automate? Automate, yes, thanks. SMS or phone, like calls. And we do have like customers that have a sensor that they are putting in the ground with a tree behind it. And whenever that tree needs to be watered, someone gets a call that's automatically triggered. But we also do have like, hi, you booked your appointment this day. So you get a text. So the scenario would be, you want to reach your end customer and you want them to have relevant and important information, but are they actually reading it? Are you actually reaching them? Because I think all of us can relate to opening your email and you have like 50 companies advertising something. It can be kind of, we have a lot of companies that have issues with no-show. Like, okay, the customer didn't come. And we don't want that issue, of course. So somehow the scenario is, how can you just communicate better? And how can we help you develop and strengthen your relationship with whoever your customer is? And that is kind of the problem as well. And I did write something catchy here. Oh yeah, that's not so good. I was gonna say, don't you want your customer in your back pocket? But I hear now that that's kind of creepy. Because I meant you have them in your phone because they get a text. So I don't think I did that well on this one. I'm gonna need help.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Maybe you could link this to the change in, is it the Swedish government requirement that PostNord only delivers letters to their to people like in rural areas, like twice a week or something instead of every day.
Yeah.
So then it would make it more difficult for people to like get important communication from like billing companies, for example. So then this could be like the
Exactly.
digital bridge that solves this logistical.
Yeah. Of course, that's a great idea. And we do also have the issue that, what do you do if your target group doesn't read? You could have an automatic phone call that tells them whatever you would like to email or SMS. Or what do you do if you need it to be in another language, but nobody in your company uses that language? Or just like someone is maybe older and doesn't like going into their email.
Yeah, I think it'd be great, like if you could highlight like a potential customer or an end customer or an end user
Yeah.
whose life has been significantly improved. Like maybe it's an old lady who broke her leg and her mailbox is like 2 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And there's nobody else alive in her family who's willing to come and like,
Exactly.
take the mail. So she's like, basically.
And I mean, the biggest issue with my pitch here is that it's a lot about the company. I was also thinking about like using the fact that we just recently had an organizational change. So our CEO is my female colleague. So I was thinking about like, what about making it about being a female CEO in a very like manly dominated area? But then it's like,
Depends on what
Yeah.
your goal is with the story. You know,
Yeah.
because some stories you want to get new customers.
yeah,
With some stories you want to share a business story, you want to create brand awareness, you want to make sure that people know that you care about diversity.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever. So it depends on the goal of your story is the
and it could be so many goals. I mean, it can also be, why don't we care about brands as much as maybe we should?
Yeah, but this is your goal as a business,
Yeah.
and that determines what you want to achieve with PR.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so that maybe just try to take it from that side, like, okay,
Yeah.
we want to get new users, or we want to, I don't know, build credibility, or we want to stand out from competitors.
Yeah.
So we're gonna create this story or this story, and then you can test.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking if the goal is to create awareness about your service,
Yeah.
the thing you described, I would summarize it as like automated, personalized messaging
Yeah.
cuts through the noise.
Oh, that's beautiful.
What you want to say.
Are you a copywriter?
My partner thinks I should.
Maybe
I
you
would be very
should.
happy if I was.
Yeah.
I love doing this
Yeah.
stuff.
But I mean, we do have like,
the
yeah.
catchy headline could be something like the holy grail of customer messaging.
Perfect.
That would be
Yeah.
an interesting article in a resume, I think.
I'm just like afraid that a lot of journalists are tired of all these buzzwords.
Yeah.
So definitely.
Yeah, true.
So, but
Yeah.
is this a new thing with
No, we've been here for
personalized messaging like this that you're tailoring to each customer?
the big issue is it's not new. We've been here for 10 years, but our customers usually don't want people to know that they're using us because, of course, if I'm
Oh, that's
say
perfect. The secret.
yeah behind because if I'm a company and my company is texting you, hi Olle, or your name, then of course we want you to think that we actually wrote hi Olle. But what we're doing is that we're making our customers be able to focus on other parts of their job and still having this intimate relationship. Intimate, thanks. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to go around this. Thank you so much for your tips.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, we're running out of time, so I'm gonna skip through the next slides and make sure that it's valuable because we have 3 other ways of getting featured in the media, and then we're finished with the session. So, one other way of getting featured in media is by communicating funding stories. This normally sparks a lot of attention from the media, especially when you get funding. So let's say you get an investor that, you know, put some money in your business or in your new startup that you're gonna create. So yeah, funding stories are a great way of getting featured in the media, and you can always pitch them to journalists by using the same structure, of course, not with a problem solution, etc., but like in 2-3 paragraphs, you can share the news and you can pitch it exclusively with journalists or under embargo, and you're giving them the chance to kind of like access the news beforehand, and they can cover this. These type of stories trigger company features. So it's a great way of getting covered in the media when you get funding, because they will write about your business and what you do. Another way is by submitting guest contributions to journalists, and this is especially a good one if you have a content writer in your team or a team of content writers or content that you have created. You can always pitch it to outlets, especially to contributing editors, people that review the content that is being submitted to them. There are certain outlets that have people that the only thing they do is to review content that is submitted from external resources, and they publish it. So this is a great way of also getting featured in the media. You just need to make sure that your content is neutral and is not overly promotional of your business, basically. So it's not the same as a blog article, okay? Big difference. Your blog can talk as much as you want about your product. Guest contributions normally talk about the bigger space that you're in, what is affecting it, and in return you normally get a byline, so you get a link to your site. For example, here, this is the writer, and then she has a link here to her site. So it also helps a lot with SEO, because you're being indexed, and you're basically getting backlinks from from sites that have a big domain authority, and Google sees that as credibility, so they rank you higher. Okay? And then the last one is opinion pieces. Opinion pieces are great ways of getting featured in the media, especially when there is something that is trending in the media that affects the space that you're in. So you can always, for example, there's a new regulation and you are doing something that is environmentally friendly, you know, or I don't know, there's a big discussion about whether kombucha is good for you or not. Well, you as a CEO of a kombucha company, you can share your views, your thoughts in terms of why, where that regulation is positive or negative, or you can shed some light in space that things are being discussed, which is basically leveraging your experience or expertise in a certain field to shed some light in the space by sharing an opinion piece. These ones are normally shorter than a normal editorial piece. They have up to 600 words, I think, or 750, and we pitch them to a opinion editor within a certain outlet. Opinion editors normally exist mostly within newspapers. So newspapers have opinion editors, and I don't know if you've heard of the term op-ed. It's like also like at the beginning or end of a magazine, sometimes you also have opinion pieces that you can see. So yeah, you can also give this one a try, and you don't have to have news happening, you know, it's just about something that is trending in the news. All of them, you don't need news happening, except for funding news, of course. And then awards and competitions are also a great way of getting featured in the media, because you can create your own awards or your own competition for people, and then you can talk to the media when you're calling for entries, when you have winners, you know, or etc. So, for example, one of our clients called CMEX Ventures is a venture capital firm within the construction space. They created the startup competition. So startups that were in the construction field, they could participate. And we helped them to get media attention about it, like around calling for entries, but also announcing the winners, getting the winners featured in articles, getting the people organizing the awards and competition interviewed, etc. So it's also a good way of getting featured in the media, and you can create this for your own company. Questions? No? Cool. So the last one I wanted to, we're getting to the end of the session. But before we finish, I wanted to basically touch upon the topic of press releases, because it's, of course, big in the PR world. A press release is something that is different to a pitch. That's what I have it here. And it's basically a piece of content that we create when we are announcing news. Okay? So all the ones I just showed you are more evergreen type of things. This one is only when we have news. Now, what do we mean with news? You're launching a product. You're expanding into new markets. You hire a new person in your team that has a high profile because they're whatever, JP Morgan or whatever you want to be. You are, I don't know, you got a new round of funding. Whatever is that is news worth it, normally it's shared with the media through a press release. The press release follows this structure. So we start with the main facts, the W's that I showed you, like the questions and core questions. We address them all in the first part of the release. And then we delve into more detail. We have more detail about, let's say, the funding round. We had some quotes about the investors and the CEO and what they're going to be doing with the money. You know, we add additional comments, and at the end we add bios about who you are. A press release is sent normally is submitted to the media through in the body of an email, or if it's going to be an attachment as a Word file, not as a PDF file, because people cannot copy and paste. As simple as that. And basically, a lot of journalists, what they do is just copy and paste your press release, and so they need to be able to access it easily. And sometimes they just like copy and paste it directly. So it's basically like a pre-made article that we send them. So it's easy for them to just copy and paste it in their publication. And lastly, we normally add a press kit. And a press kit is a dry folder. Could also be with transfer file or whatever you want to be, but like a folder with more resources, like bios, headshots, demos of the product, whatever it's going to be, a fact sheet, etc. So there are more tips here. Most important one is to add links, so you also rank high for SEO. You can track them down, see how your press release is performing, and to have a call to action. And the last slide of this session is about integrating PR with the rest of your funnel, because in these sessions I normally get questions like, but should we do PR actually? Is PR something for us? Is it not? Well, at the end of the day, PR is a channel, and as a channel, it contributes to your visibility. But it should not be the only channel, you know? Audiences right now need multiple touch points with brands in order to engage with them. So one thing, it shouldn't be, do we do PR or do we do social media? You should actually be doing both, because that's where you can find your audiences as well, you know? We need to be there where they are, but it's important to also integrate it, you know, with the rest of the funnel, and not just treat it as a standalone thing that we just get coverage once in a while. We don't even know what that coverage is bringing us, but we do it because it looks pretty. You know, they should have a purpose behind it, and goals behind it, in order to be of value to your business. So that's all. I have a slide about the book. If you want to buy it, and you want to learn how to do PR, and you liked it, you can buy it in all these stores there. That I have there on the right. These are like the chapters. As you can see, it goes from everything about doing PR to setting your own strategy, scaling across borders, crisis communications, media training, etc. And that's it. Add me on LinkedIn. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for attending the session. Hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let's connect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are you sharing your slides?
I can send my slides if you want. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Why should people hire your company to do PR if this is everything they need to know?
Oh, good question. Mainly because PR, as you can see, is very time consuming and it's easy to make mistakes if you haven't done it before. So I guess we are doing it all the time.
What are the worst things that can happen if you make a mistake in PR?
Well, worst things, you can upset some people. So we have to be careful with the wording that we use. But most importantly, yeah, it's just like a lot of time that you're gonna spend on nothing. I'm not saying anyone can do PR, I believe. Huh? So if you want to do PR, I really encourage you to start doing it, because it takes a lot of practice. And if you implement some of the tips, I'm sure you're gonna be successful.
Can I add something as well?
Yeah.
Also, if you don't have optimized the whole process, you're also gonna eventually miss out on like great opportunities to create like traction and awareness in the press, because if you have this huge announcement happening and you're not able to communicate it to the journalists, then that opportunity is going to be missed out. So I think that's also one of the risks.
Yeah, and also sometimes we don't have the money, the time, or the team, or the money, whatever it is, to like do it ourselves. So if you want to do it and you want to focus on something else, it's way handier to just like get someone else to do it for you. As simple as that.
So what do you guys do exactly?
In terms of services? Well, we offer PR as a core service, but also content writing, SEO, because SEO and PR are very intertwined. PR is a great way to get links and rank high in Google. So we do all SEO, we have an SEO consultant, and we also do web development. So for SEO-friendly websites.
I just want to ask a question. When you work with PR, should you be focusing on one specific area, or can you do like everything?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there you can be PR in politics or
Yeah.
say, I don't know,
Yeah.
like the different kind of industries. Do you
Yeah.
focus on specific industries?
We are very specialized in the tech field. So we do mainly tech. It's a good question because we do mostly B2B tech. B2C and B2B are quite different, especially when you do PR. B2C is more influencer marketing as well, you know, social media, and different types of magazines and journalists. But I mean, you can do any type, but we decided as a business that we wanted to focus on tech. Yeah. Question?
Kind of.
Yeah?
Regarding your question of what's the worst thing that can happen, I'm thinking besides upsetting someone,
Yeah.
it's the fact that some people might associate your company with something that you don't even do. That's a huge fail because when you plant that thought, it's really hard to change it. Like, what if everyone went around and thought that Volvo made kombucha? It would be really hard. Well, that's a really bad example. But do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about someone who just sent out press releases to a whole bunch of people without really checking their backgrounds first, and they ended up sending their puff piece to an investigative journalist who then ended up writing something really negative about them.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of things, those kind of things can definitely happen. But most importantly, the important thing is to be proactive about your reputation and not let it like just be, you know. But be proactive about how you want to be perceived. What do you want people to know about you? What do you want to be associated with? A lot of companies that don't do PR, they just let it just there, and then people either have wrong perceptions about them or they miss on a lot of opportunities. It's as simple as that.
And I can also say that now PR is very much linked, I think, to sustainability reporting. A lot of big companies, they are starting to take out all the sustainability reports, and if you lie, you're not transparent, accurate in your reporting, then it's a big backlash towards you. So I think that's something maybe I will look at.
What would you recommend for low-budget companies that probably don't have time for PR but still need to really get their brand out there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because I get that asked a lot. I think when you do not have a lot of people in your team, or you don't have the budget or whatever, you kind of like have to do it yourself. Start with the announcements first, like, because those are the quick wins. Like whether you have something to announce. If you don't have anything to announce, out of all the ways of getting featured in the media that I showed you, I think the one that performs best is research, because you can do it you can get coverage at scale. So you can conduct some research. It doesn't need to be internal. It could also be external. You can survey some people, put together some data, and send it out to some journalists. And the benefit of that is that you're not dependent on one outlet. You can pitch multiple outlets simultaneously. So it will be a few quick wins instead of just one by one, basically. Or if not, content get submissions is also one that works pretty well. When you submit content to editors and you get a feature in some outlets, because a lot of us have, I mean, as a small startup, normally the first person within the marketing team or second is a content writer, because you need to rank high in Google, you need to create a blog, etc. So some of that content you can repurpose and get a feature. So that's what I would suggest. Yes?
How do you go about finding the right journalist to contact?
There are some tools for that. One that I use a lot is called Clearbit. I don't know if I have anything to write here, but it's like Clear and then BIT. And that one is like a Gmail extension, and then you just type down the name of the outlet, and then all the emails will kind of like drop down. But then within the outlet itself, some of them have the contact details of the journalists available, so you can pitch them. But there are multiple tools to find emails. It's actually not really hard. I think what's harder than finding emails is finding the right journalist. Like, that's what takes a lot of time, because you need to research the outlet, see, okay, yeah, this one could be interested in my story, you know?
And maybe get to know, like, how does that journalist's voice sound? Like, what kind of articles did this person write before?
Yeah.
So I want to have that kind of angle.
Yeah. Question?
Yeah, that just got me thinking, from the contribution, the opinion pieces part, how much of that to actually get published established is relationship based versus if you're going through a PR
Mhm.
agency, you have connections, I assume, to them.
Yeah. That's really good, because a lot of agencies sell connections. Sell connections as their USP. They're like, oh yeah, we have connections. We're good because we have connections. We also have connections, but we don't sell those because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if you have connections or not, because journalists, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're good friends with them or not. They can still reject your story. They can just say like, no, sorry, it's not a fit. No, sorry, my calendar is full. No, sorry, I'm covering an event this week. I can't cover you. So having a connection doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It's just, of course, helps increase the chances of getting the journalists to open your email. You know, they're going to be more receptive towards it. But you don't need an agency for connections. You can build your own connections. Like for that company, Impress, that I showed you just now, I didn't have any connections before I studied there. You know, but that is a thing that we are a bit vocal about, because when someone sells you connections, are they actually selling your story? Or, you know what I mean? Like, do they actually care about your story? Or it's just like they're going to place you there because they know someone, it's easier for them to place you there, you know? Because like, we tend to assume like, oh yeah, getting featured in Forbes, amazing. Getting featured in a national outlet, great. But actually, you need to get featured where your audience is. And maybe for you, it's more relevant to get featured in a trade outlet that is read by less people, that maybe you don't know the editor, but it speaks directly to your audience, instead of aiming for national television that only less than 1% of people there would care about who you are, or will be potential buyers of your solution. You know? So it's about finding where your audience is and developing the relationships based on that, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna see what existing relationship do I have and I'm gonna make you fit there, here, so you're happy that I got you some coverage.
Isn't it really ironic and a bit scary if a PR person is trying to pitch themselves and using their contacts as their main thing? That would tell me that, okay, so quantity before quality, or you're not even telling me you're good at this.
Yeah.
You're only telling me that you know right person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's not a great pitch by the PR person.
No, 100%, but the problem is it comes more from the customer side. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to work with you only if you have connections here, here, and here. And that creates the ball rolling, because the PR person is like, oh yeah, I have connections, so let's work together, you know, but it's like, I don't know, it's like chicken and egg, you know what I mean? It's like, what came first? I don't know. No.
If you try to submit guest content, do journalists do like background checks on you and stuff, and what kind of things do they look for?
Yeah, so the guest content, it really is very important to pitch it to the right person, like the person that oversees content that is submitted to the outlet. So not any journalist will pick it up, because there are journalists that only write themselves, they don't publish it. So you just need to, first of all, make sure that you're pitching it to the right person. And normally about background checks, yeah, chances are they're gonna Google you to see who you are. But the thing that they're going to pay the most attention to is whether the content is relevant and not promotional. Because they are very trained at getting rid of links that go to your landing pages, or of phrases that are overly promotional of who you are. You know, those are the things that they're going to pay the most attention to when they get your content. And that it fits the style of the outlet. So normally, outlets have, at the very bottom, they have something called editorial guidelines, and that's where they detail how do they want to be pitched, what kind of stories do they pick up, you know, what kind of narrative do they use, what is the length of articles that you need to follow in order to make the cut, to make it there to that in that outlet. So that's important to take a look at before you submit content to the outlets.